on, everybody? What's going on, man? Welcome in. It's the One and One Sports Show, Black Man Unfiltered Network. I am Dante.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Shawnee.
Shawnee, I appreciate you repping, man. I see you over there. Hey, I looked at the eight. Somebody dropped the ALs of the last 10 AL champs, and I was like, God damn. So nah, I humbled them Yankees, man. I respect that. I respect that.
Oh yeah.
But we got a lot to get into, man. We're in the meat of the football season. We got trades going down at the trade deadline. We got it looking like it's the NBA. But college football is in full swing. I want to say next week. Next week is the first college football rankings. But we're not going to lead off with that, man. We're going to lead off with College Game Day showing up to Jackson, Mississippi for Jackson State, for Southern taking on Jackson State. And I couldn't be more proud. I couldn't be more happy about it. I know that there was negative comments. Excuse me. There were negative comments under the post, and I saw people. All I needed to see was people say, if you're a recruit and you're being recruited by Jackson State or any HBCU, go look and see what they're saying right now. Go look and see what they're saying under the comments and see if you want to go to those schools. And I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to look at it. And I still saw it. I saw someone put the ESPN truck going to Jackson with a porta potty and water on the back, making fun of the water crisis. And it's just like, and that's why I continue to root for Deion being there. I know he put in the titles, he's saving the HBCUs. I won't say he's saving them, but he's damn sure doing a hell of a good job of being a leader as far as telling teams, when you take that money game, like we've talked about in the previous shows, don't take them pennies, get the big money. Mm-hmm. When you do these classics, do good contracts with these classics. Jackson State and Tennessee State played, and they only got like $300,000. Everyone else involved got big money. They got big money from the all the people that could the vendors and everyone, hotels. Mm-hmm. Everyone made a lot of money except for the main attractions. And so I appreciate him saying, "Hey, don't do your business right. Get up the talent." He's being realistic. I see people say, "We ready? Jackson State's ready to go to." No, he even said, "We're not ready to play Alabama yet. We're not ready to play those teams to compete." Because there are FCS teams that do compete with FBS teams, but he knows they're not there yet. So I appreciate him. And I appreciate the I ain't sweat controversy. I love it all. I appreciate it. And also, on side note, personal note, if need Jackson State to go ahead and beat Southern, so Greg, you'll be number one in the West, because it is a good matchup because you got the top. It's not just they're there because Deion's there. They're there because Southern, who had a shutout loss to Texas Southern, has turned it around, reeled off some wins over Prairie View and other teams. They're Alcorn State, and now they're the number one in the western part of the SWAC. And so this could be a preview of the SWAC championship. And so I it's a really good game to pick. It would be a no-brainer if it was a FBS team. So they've been to all types of different places before. So for those complaining, showing off a little bit of hate, a little bit of racism. And also my last point is for the HBCU alums, yes, Jackson State is getting a lion's share of the attention. Other schools are getting attention too, but pay attention to your team, support them, hope that they build their teams up, and you'll be in the mix to get the attention. Prairie View was in the SWAC championship. They got some attention in pub because they were trying to knock off, the undefeated Jackson State. So it's like, don't get mad because one is getting more than the other. We're working on getting everyone to a collective attention. It's about collective uplift, and it's coming. It's just, you can't just sit back and be like, well, why would you want them to leave and go to a Power 5 school? It's just like, don't have the crabs in the bucket mentality, man. Don't have that. Support them and be glad that they're doing well, and just hope that your team, when you see them, hope that they beat them.
Yeah, I think because you see, I saw that College Game Day post, and it looked like you had people was complaining because they only going to, because College Game Day, they do like the NFL, how the NFL flex their schedules. They do flex their college tours or appearances. So if it's a big game that happened to be a big game that weekend, and it's going to be expected a big crowd, they will go to that game instead of the original planned game. So in this case, it was Jackson State's turn. And you saw comments within the post, just people just get all in their feelings. Like you said, they'll take some racist comments. I even saw some comments were saying like they only going to Jackson State because of Deion Sanders. And I'm like, well, I mean, the thing about with Deion is that he, okay, everybody know he is. He's a popular figure, but he's also, what's up, Problem Studies? Appreciate you for joining us. He's also, his team is also winning. So it's like you can't, I mean, you can't get mad because he's coming in. Yes, he's a big name, but his team is also dominating the SWAC. And because of that, it's no different than if you go to a Division I PWI school. If a head coach is coming up there and his team has all of a sudden just been getting a lot of victories, is stacking up W's back to back to back to back to back, winning conference titles, they will get a lot of attention. And you will hear nobody complaining about a show, whether it's ESPN or Fox, if they happen to go to that school. Like, say, for example, if right now Nebraska is in the rut, if all of a sudden a head coach come over there and just change the fate of Nebraska, now they're, excuse me, if they winning multiple games in a row, winning Big 12 or Big 10 titles at this time now, all of a sudden College Game Day will go over there. And you will hear no complaints about College Game Day going to Nebraska. So why does that, well, they're choking. Why is that a reality when it comes to HBCUs, in particular Jackson State and Prime? So I think right now, yes, Prime, he's a big name, he's a popular name, but his team is winning, and they're doing it a lot at a huge clip. So because of that, and I also, and I just put it out there because when it happened, because I'm not going to ignore the reality that ESPN is also trying to change, I guess, the image they have. Because when this happened, it kind of reminded me of the whole Rachel Nichols, that whole scenario with her and I forgot the other young lady's name.
I know Maria Taylor.
Exactly. And how Rachel Nichols didn't do anything wrong, but ESPN wanted to change an image. They wanted to portray an image because at that time they didn't have enough African Americans in, excluding Stephen A. Smith, but they didn't have enough African Americans, visible.
Yeah. Well, I'll change it. There's not enough black men and women talking sports on a large level, period. Like, ESPN can give you a skewed view. And I've heard from people that it's kind of like this. Unfortunately, they know a lot of black men are unemployed.
Andre, what's up, man?
What's going on, bro? I see you repping all things Philly, man. It's the Eagles. I see you repping the Phillies, man. I ain't got no beef with the Phillies, only the Eagles. So you know what I'm saying. But I don't like that. I don't like their chances. But like it's not enough. So ESPN will concentrate them during the daytime, and so black men can see. So it looks that way. And then another thing is, and that's another issue that nobody likes to talk about. They don't have enough black journalists. Like, it's great to have the ex-athlete, but you need a balance of the journalistic integrity, so you won't have situations like Shannon Sharp getting a guy live on the air on the telephone unscreened. Like that's a no-no. Like that was just terrible. But he's just able to do what he wants to do over there at Fox, and so it's kind of like, and he doesn't know because you made your career racking up yards and touchdowns. So it's not your job to know. So that's another issue. And if you think about it, man, what's going on, Mr. Bennett? They gave Maria, they gave her release outright. She got to go from the finals to the Olympics. That's how bad they caught them. But that's how you lose your leverage, though. She used her leverage, and I respect that.
Yeah, and that whole how ESPN, I just couldn't help to think about that when they scratched whatever original players. I forgot the original game that was going to be on campus they was going to go to and change to Jackson State. On one hand, I am proud and happy that SWAC and an HBCU and that fact is getting this attention this weekend because College Game Day brings a lot of attention to campuses, and it's good attention. Well, I guess now it's bad attention all of a sudden, as you can see on Facebook. But when it happened, it just brought me back. I'm like, okay, I'm happy y'all decided to go to Jackson State, but it's just like something related to an image thing.
Yeah,
You know,
and it's like they get that part right, but I see on Twitter, and I know Twitter is an echo chamber, but they talk about the coverage so bad. Like the coverage, they have to do that next. Respect us like you respect Nebraska. You talk about the black shirt defense, and they ain't been nothing, and they haven't been relevant to me since they was in that Big 12 championship game and they went to the Big 10. But it's like you will be respectful of those schools. Be respectful and talk right. When you have a game, can you at least do a profile on some of the players? Can you go down to the city, do a profile, just like, and okay, we know to look for this play because they talked to us this week. They built a relationship. Come down to these schools. Don't just come to Jackson State and then cover the game or put it on ESPN3 and have some choppy coverage. Like, talk to them, know about it, be knowledgeable of the band and the rivalries and the history. Give it a full go. And that's the next step. And I know a lot of people say, man, look at the way ESPN treats us. And let's go ahead and let's go somewhere else. And I'm like, when it comes to national coverage, it's them. And then it's NBC. Notre Dame is such a commodity.
I think
they're
Fox
all
is
on
next.
ESPN.
I think
Fox is the next one because Fox has Fox, the local Fox over the air, and they have FS1. So
you also have CBS.
Oh, CBS.
Yes,
CBS.
SEC. That's at the home at SEC. So that's the next
home at SEC. And so that's where hopefully next. And I will say CBS is affiliated somehow because I think they do the broadcasting when they have the games on NFL Network. They're tied some kind of way. I can't remember, but I know there have been HBCU games on NFL Network. So you can try to have that leverage play, but more than anything, I don't want to go over to other networks and it's still not covered correctly. Cover it correctly, get the names right, get the history right. But they hate Jay Walker. Jay Walker, when he does games, they absolutely hate him. His counterpart, Hershey, doesn't get any shade really, but they hate Jay Walker and the coverage overall. So I hope they step that up too. I'm not like Deion is set the standard. I'm not settling. I want the games, but I also want the coverage to raise the floor. Definitely.
One thing I want to mention real quick before I let you go, Mr. Bennett. One thing I do like about college game day, I don't know if y'all noticed, and I don't know how long they've been doing this. I think this is new. Have y'all noticed, like, when a lot of times they talk to the head coach, but when they interviewing the head coach and he's actually on the field while his team is warming up, and he's just walking around the field. I guess he got some like AirPods in and whatnot, and he literally just walking around the field, and you can see the coaches. They're a lot more comfortable. They're in their element with their team warming up in the background and the questions and whatnot. So you start to get to know a lot of the personalities of the coaches. I think one time they even did a player one time. And with Prime always been transparent with his personality there. He's been known. So I don't think you're going to see anything different with Prime. But I think it's just I like that one feature that they do. And they probably doing that, Prime, he's gonna rep Jackson State, so he's the head coach. But he's also gonna rep an HBCU. So, while they talking to him as he walking the field and whatnot, it'd be nice to see if he drops some jewels here and there about HBCUs and whatnot. But I understand his first priority is Jackson State. They got a game to play. Do what you do. But I just find it interesting if they do that with him. It just be interesting stuff that he gonna say and whatnot.
What's going on, Savage? I appreciate you checking out the show, man. Mr. Bennett, what you got to add, man?
It's all good. So I mean, if the topic's on HBCU coverage, I mean, I think a lot of it's going to come down to making the investment, because what happens is you have to depending on the number of eyeballs. I mean, it's all about satisfying the sponsors. So, getting the kind of coverage that you want, getting the profiles that you want. I know exactly what you're talking about is that extra splash that actually humanizes the players and not just look at them as a commodity on the field. Someone's going to have to just get behind it, and it's got to be a long-term thing, because ESPN, they tried to do HBCU before back in the day when you had the brother from the Heisman Trophy winner who played with the Titans. not McNabb, but McNair.
McNair.
Certainly they follow HBCUs because he was like a leading Heisman candidate, but they didn't go all in on HBCUs. So hopefully with a character like Prime and just the attention that he's bringing and the sponsorships that he's bringing. Did you guys see that 60 Minutes interview with Prime?
Not yet. I still haven't caught up with it.
You need
to
watch that. You really need to watch that 60 Minutes interview. It was on just a couple weeks ago with Prime on it. And just what he's been able to bring in terms of like the title sponsors. They need more of them. They need at least double the sponsors, major sponsors. But just his name alone brought like 3 major brands with him when he went to that. And again, everyone's eating off of that. So again, if we can get a couple more personalities who can really bring that appeal to it, and then also just for the public. I think the problem with a lot of the HBCUs, like there's a lot of HBCU support out there, but everyone's scattered. Like I know in New Jersey, right? In the they used to call it the Meadowlands, but now it's a different MetLife Stadium. They have an annual HBCU game every year that packs out the stadium. You talk about 50, 60,000 people. Morehouse was up there this past year, and I know my nephew went to Morehouse. His wife went to Spelman. You get all the Greeks out there, the D9s show up. So it's a major event, but it gets very little coverage. I found out what was going on mostly through social media because the social media presence is so big. So when you have these major events, when you have these major homecoming type events, we need to get the media out there, and, somebody needs to let people know. It's like, hey, this is the event we're covering. I mean, go to the, you have somebody, like you said, game day, they go on to do the tailgating and whatnot. But imagine if you had like a major platform like ESPN or one of these major channels out there in the parking lot at MetLife Stadium covering this game. It would give such a lot of coverage, but they're like, everyone's like all over, but everyone's scattered. They come together in these silos, but someone's not doing the research to get an understanding of where did these people meet. When you talk about homecoming, when you talk about these major classic games at MetLife Stadium, that should be like a major spot where we need to be there every single year. The networking that takes place up there is incredible. And you don't even have to be part of an HBCU. Like I said, if you're part of D9, my daughter was up there, met up with my nephew and his wife and their crew, just going there because she goes to Rutgers North, local here. So I think that, somebody needs to be a bit more strategic about looking at the HBCU landscape, where are the big draws, and then directing these networks to, hey, you need to put coverage here. And so, because clearly you could have had a game day experience right there in Meadowlands, but again, very little coverage there. But that game has been going on as long as I can remember, at least like 30 years. You've always had some medium games, whether it be Grambling or Jackson State, whatever the college is. This has been going on forever up here. And there's a lot of folks from New Jersey, from the Northeast, who've gone to HBCUs and moved back to the Northeast. And sometimes you lose those connections down there. It's not necessarily going to be, I think, trying to cover the games at the schools themselves, you're not going to get that kind of experience. But when they pack out these stadiums, they used to do that Bayou Classic back in the Superdome, New Orleans Superdome back in the day. That was an NBC. They were on that. They would cover that every year. I mean, I think so. You need to build it around the big arenas and the big games. But trying to get appeal, because, again, you got games now that get blacked out, even in the NFL, if you don't have fans, right? Mm-hmm. When you had like star teams like Jacksonville or whatnot, when they, no offense to Jacksonville fans, but they would literally black out the game and go to another game if the stadium wasn't half full. I think for the NFL, that's almost like a requirement. So again, so you go to a lot of these SWAC schools or whatnot, just like there's nobody in the stands. But if you're trying to create this experience, you need to go where the people are. And they just need somebody in those rooms to really help to direct the traffic. Hey, you guys need to be at these 4 major venues every year. Get the major crews out there, get the trucks out there, and really build around that. And I think, that'll then also get the attention of sponsors who might want to invest in that. Because, again, they're going to go where the people are. Where the people are is where the money is. So they want to go there and patronize that.
You brought up the Bayou
most
Classic.
Definitely.
I just looked it up. The Bayou Classic is the biggest football game, I guess, classic in HBCU.
Yeah.
That would be a perfect.
If that's the biggest one.
I think
if that's the biggest, the one at the Meadowlands is like second or third. I mean, it's up there, but
big professional venues are getting filled up by HBCU supporters.
and
Correct.
and they have no excuse. They just got to get tapped in with the right people, because you said it's in
Yeah.
New Jersey, right? Everybody knows ESPN is right there in Bristol.
Exactly.
Tri-state area. So they just got to get tapped in with the right people. And I'm with you on that, because it is aesthetically, it's a much better look, because the State Fair Classic is a 50,000 one. And when you see there and you see, of course, one side is, purple and gold, the other side is black and gold. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. You see all of that, and then it's right there when the fair is going on. So it's a lot of activity, and it is a better look, and it is a lot more sponsors. Like, I want to say, all my life I've known about the State Fair Classic, and then my brother, when he went to Grambling, and I learned about the Bayou Classic, and also you also have other classics. Like, I want to say the Magic City Classic that's coming up soon, and so you have these big classics. I'm with you, Mr. Bennett. They got to put the emphasis on those, because that's when the show, hey, we do come out. Because although the schools may only have, let's just say, a bigger one, 8,000 students, you have all these alums from years and years and years. So you have enough people that's going to come and support. You have the cities coming out and supporting. So I think it's coming. I want to say, I don't know the attendance numbers for the Southern and the Texas Southern game, because they turned the old Rangers baseball field into a baseball stadium here in Texas. So they play at that one, because they were playing at the State Fair, but it got booked up. And, they built that stadium, which it was a robbery, but I don't want to talk about that. So they have the games there, and they're going to build that one up. So I don't know how good the attendance is, but, Texas has been open from COVID for a minute. So I know they had it in 21, they had it in 22. So I hope they continue to have that one, and just give us these classics. They're going to pack out homecoming. We already know that. Yeah. But, we have to play a lot of road games for the funds. You have to, so you're not going to get you're not going to get those 8 home games like the Power 5 schools, or some of the Power 5 schools, because some of them need the money too to get beat up on. So it's a thing that it's like, it's expanding, it's growing, and I just think they need the right people tapped in, and I think it'll eventually happen to where it's where it needs to be. Because my thing is, they're focusing on Deion so much, and I'm thinking he's going to be here for the time he's here. Let's learn from him, but let's grow. Let's grow. Like, hopefully, whenever he leaves the infrastructure there, and he leaves a game plan and a blueprint for other people to follow. Because I know for one thing I don't. This is my last point on it before we move on to like the NFL. I don't want people to get so focused on what he's able to do. Like, you might not be able to get a Travis Hunter, but you have to still recruit quality players from your local areas and your talent base. And that's why I'm like, look, people were surprised, like Privy lost their coach to Southern, but I'm like, I looked at their recruiting class and I was like, okay, they're getting guys from programs that like legitimate programs that produce high school talent. And so I was like, that's the key. You get those guys in there, you redshirt them, you get their bodies right, you come out and you give them 4 years, and you develop that talent. And that's the way we're going to get it. You develop it, and as always, transfer portal is college football now. So you pluck guys out of the transfer portal. That's that guy that's a third stringer that should be a starter. Have him come start for your school. Come get some shine. They're bringing it. They're having the HBCU combine. But I'm not so focused on guys getting drafted. I want quality college football and these guys to get education debt free. That's my biggest thing, for them to go and grow that way and be able to build that life. Like, that's what I want HBCUs to be centered on. I know a lot of people focus on the pro angle. Like, I want guys going to the pros that can. But we know that's 1%. I want all these guys to be great students and have a great experience, to be like, look, I played in front of 50, 60,000 people. And I got a degree. Like, that's something you can't put a price on. And so that's something that I want.
Yeah, I think it needs to be part of the package. I mean, the pro thing, I mean, because again, HBCUs, especially, in the 70s and 80s, that was a pipeline for pros. So I think that if you can add that component to it, where at least you get the pro scouts coming out, because again, would you rather be assigned, like I said, you could be on Alabama and you be a third string and never, never see playing time. But imagine if you sell it to a point where, again, as long as you get the scouts coming out and they can see you play every week, then I think that's the selling point as well. So again, that's why I think you still need more connections to the NFL, former players becoming coaches, or coaches who are on the NFL level. Like you got guys like Eric Bieniemy and whatnot. I mean, these guys are trying to get that head coaching job, but we all know that class of 30, 32 owners, a lot of them are just not trying to have that. But again, imagine the impact if he goes to an HBCU program where some of these guys who are, everyone's vying for like the 2 or 3 persons of color. I'll even use that because you can't say black coaches. Imagine if those guys decide to dedicate themselves to an HBCU, guys who are pro experienced, but they have pro connections, so you can get guys coming out to them. So again, I think for a lot of these guys in the NFL looking to get that very narrow swath of jobs, I think certainly they can have a gold mine in the HBCU world as well. Don't necessarily shut that off. You may think it's a step back, but again, what you're able to plant, I think, will certainly pay long-term dividends. And you really have a legacy, because again, a lot of these guys, they're not going to go above D coordinator or O coordinator, and it's just that's just unless something happens where they got to have an interim or turnaround or something like that. Unless you get diversity and ownership in the NFL, you're not going to get to 10, 12, 15 coaches of color in the NFL. So why not, make a contribution into the HBCU space and bring the NFL to the HBCU game? Then you're going to get sponsors going to want to come in and be a part of that as well. So again, everything feeds off each other. So imagine what one person was able to do. You get another one of these guys in, it could really change some things. So I'm just looking to hopefully see from the coaching perspective that you'll have more guys who will want to have that connection and draw potential prospects to these schools.
That's Hugh Jackson. Hugh Jackson.
Most definitely.
Hugh Jackson, absolutely.
Yeah. And
absolutely.
I think Grambling.
And who else?
Second.
Yeah.
Oh, Eddie George.
Yeah.
You got Eddie George, but now that someone just left Arizona, who just left Arizona State. You got NFL experience, my man from
Herm Edwards.
Herm Edwards. Could you imagine Herm Edwards at an HBCU? Could you imagine him going into some grandmother's home, talking about what he's going to do? You know what a motivator that guy is.
Yeah,
he can pull people to go to an
wrong
HBCU.
at Arizona State, man. They fired that boy walking off the field, man.
Yeah, I'm just saying, but he'd be a star in HBCU world. He's got all that bringing with him. Super Bowl, he's got, he's succeeded like on every level, And so imagine what impact he could have. Some of those folks from the Tony Dungy tree, who could benefit there. I mean, so yeah, it's a fertile ground, and I would love to see him there. That's first person coming out. That's the next guy I'd like to see.
I'm with you on that one, man. I'm with you on that one. I'm hoping it happens. I can't wait to see how hopefully we'll have an update next week as to how successful it was and who won out of Jackson State and Southern. So I mean, because I'm really excited about that. But I know we can't spend all the time talking about our HBCUs, man. As much as passionate as I am, Prairie View's homecoming this weekend. I know it's gonna be they're gonna pack it out. It's gonna look beautiful. But man, I want to get into some of these quarterbacks that are struggling and looking like they're on their last legs, man. So I don't know. I think for me, I want to start off with the Bucks, because I'm confused. I'm baffled. I'm absolutely it's one of those days where you're score watching, and I know I was picking my mother up from the airport, so I'm like, and I'm listening to the Cowboy game, but they're like, hey, we're score watching. The Panthers are up on the Bucks, and I'm like, nah. So I'm driving, but I'm like, let me pull it up on my phone. I'm like, they really are losing. And to see them lose 21-3 to a team that's tanking, that just traded his best player or his best offensive player, it's kind of like, it's puzzling.
Best player. McCaffrey, best player.
Now, I was saying, because I know what's his name is a hell of a player. What's his name? But he's not on his level. Brian Burns. And that's somebody that they're taking offers from. But he's a pass rusher that I think eventually will get moved if they're not if they're smart, because they need to, they won a game, and that's good for the morale of the team. But I know the GM is kind of like, damn, I kind of need that. I was counting this as an L, because they're looking at those picks, because they need them, because they traded away picks for Darnold and for Mayfield. So it's just like they're trying to get whatever they can. But I know we talked about it. The Tommy B really hit it on last week, talking about like a regular man has problems at home, his work performance struggles, let alone the game of football. And I mean, 3 points. And I know one of them, they showed the clip of Mike Evans with his hands out, and they showed the clip, and they was like, he dropped his pass, by the way. Yeah. And I was just like, I don't know exactly what's going on with him, other than you don't want to count Brady out. But it's one of those deals where I was like, at 45, we might need to count him out. And it's like, look, we know the Fox job is waiting on him. The $300 million deal, this was reported. But he said he's not going to quit in midseason, no matter how bad it gets. Right. But, I mean, They leaving it wide open over there. That the NFC South, man. What's going on, ISL? But it's I just can't call. I never saw it getting this bad. I don't know if they need to just lean on Fournette. I don't know if the defense is playing well enough, but it's baffling, and it's just like it's only going to get worse. If they have another loss, it's only going to get worse. And
yeah, well, so it's like
messy.
it's the domino effect. I mean, the all the controversy from the week before, him yelling at folks on the sidelines. Then you have, again, had he completed that pass to Evans to kind of go up early on, that could have changed the whole complexion of the game. But you just start seeing it just goes to show how fragile it is, the difference between being 5-2 and 2-5. It's like one play here, one play there, or just the morale of the team. If people think that there's dissension or not everybody's all in, it just creates a dynamic. I mean, football, you got to have all guys all in. And if it doesn't, like Brady's all in or guys are just distracted, again, it didn't help. Guys getting suspended early in the year because Brady's getting into the face of another player, getting Mike Evans suspended. I mean, so it's just a lot of the things that have been happening to him have nothing to do with football, really. I mean, at least the game, the X's and O's on the field, it's all this extra stuff that's just just hurting the chemistry, and they just can't get clicking the way they want to. It's like all these games have been winnable for them, but it's just not it's just not clicking right now. So that's still baffling to me, especially like you said, the fire sale that they're going with Carolina right now. But then again, I think this was the first game for that rookie head coach, for that head coach, that interim coach. Or was this the second game?
I think this was his first game.
All right, so sometimes I know guys get motivated. When you get a new coach in and whatnot, everybody kind of rallies around the new coach or whatnot. So that could certainly add some splash to it. They got rid of the distraction, that wide receiver that they had. They got into the argument with the OC. They got rid of him, and so they did do some cleaning up or whatnot. So again, I can see how that can rally some guys, but I put it more on the Bucs. And just this coach again, he doesn't seem to be like certainly not a taskmaster like the previous guy was. You knew that was his team. Bowles, he seems to be it's almost like his Brady's team. He's not going to be that guy who's going to control Brady. Remember, it was the previous coach who came in there. And when Tom was trying to say something, it's like, I'm the effing coach here. He's like, he was like, he would check Tom Brady. Bowles doesn't seem the type of person who's going to get in his face on anything. He's trying to be the negotiator, trying to be. Everyone wants to have that sort of Tony Dungy model. That doesn't work for everybody.
And that's also it sucks. It sucks on two fronts. I like balance, and I do think that a head coach should be leader of men. And they're so focused on having an offensive head coach now. Not only is he a defensive head coach, he's a black man, and he knows this is his last time. And, he'd have to win 2 Super Bowls to be able to get fired from this job and get another.
Right.
So it sucks that you think, okay, you got Brady coming in and you're going to be able to win and hand it off to a good position. And it sounded good when they handed it off, and they said that that's what they wanted to do, to hand it off to either him or Leftwich. But now, not only this, if Brady steps away this year, they don't have the means to go get another quarterback. They're going to suck. They're going to absolutely
suck. They definitely did. They franchise a lot too.
He's going to get fired mid-season, and we know the history of the Bucs. The history is the team in 2000s. Now, now, and other than that, a lot of losing, a lot of losing, and so it's going to be rough on them, man. Shawnee, what you got on it, man?
No, I just think that the whole thing, I don't think it's hard just to figure out because, one, we have never. Well, Brady, basically over 20 years he's been playing. We have never seen Brady like this. I think it's easy. Even the team, it's what's going on in his home, and that thing doesn't filter over. And even there was reports earlier in the season that the team is getting tired of the distraction, answering these questions. Because I don't know if I brought it up here or I was talking to somebody on the outside. Because of who Brady is married to, she is a whole figure of her own, and she has a whole different media that follows her. All that mainstream media, that gossip media, all of that follows her. And, they've been you see stuff about their marriage, but it was never no dirt. there was always a happy couple.
Right.
But that type of media just waits. They just waiting and hoping that marriage trouble, any type of drama will come up, especially in a marriage with just two popular figures, and you just happen to be married to one or maybe the most successful supermodel in the world. So now that you having marriage issues, because if you watch the sports media and the various analysts, they don't like to talk about it. All they say is, we know he has some problem at his home, but it's his personal life. We out of it. All we looking at is his field. They don't like talking about his home.
No.
But that other media, because Brady, I think even said he's used to having media follow him because he's a big name. But like I said, the media wasn't constantly, because they didn't have this marriage issue. So now you're getting the other side of how pressing and just in your face and every day. I mean, I could just go on a random Yahoo homepage or Google, and you see some random gossip media also talking about Brady and Giselle. And if you look at it, Brady damn near about to become the dude that's just married to Giselle. Like,
That sucks.
they are exactly, Brady is accomplished and everything, is well accomplished, and how revered he is in the sports world. But that media don't care about that. They looking at Giselle, and basically they looking at Brady like, you are only known to them because who you married to, and now you having all these issues, and then that media and that attention is starting to get leaked over to the locker room. Now the other players have to deal with that. Right. And it was already reported that they getting tired of it. It's like they getting mad at Brady because we didn't sign up for this.
Right.
If your home life is threatening because you wanted to come back. I mean, you want to come back and play. We was let's do this. Let's make one more run. But we didn't know all this extra drama was going to come with it.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
I think it also goes to organization as well. Yeah. I mean, I think when you look at the Patriots or the quote unquote Patriot way, I think a lot of stuff, even if the stuff was going on, I think Belichick, just the way he ran his organization, a lot of the stuff you wouldn't hear of either. I mean, I think that, this is the first time, like that first year with the Bucks, he was like, I'm a free man. I can say what I want to say, and I just want to be free or whatever. Under that Belichick umbrella, everything was like in-house. So a lot of stuff didn't get out about anybody. Even all that stuff that was going on with Aaron Hernandez and whatnot, we didn't find out about that until years later. When that documentary came out, he was like, oh my gosh, you had no idea that this guy was that volatile on that team. But again, you heard nothing while he was playing. You heard nothing about it until he got arrested and all that stuff. So I think that, you also have to look at the organization, how Belichick runs things, and you got to give him credit for that. It's like now, because the question was always, all that success that they had, was it Brady or was it Belichick? Both of them are struggling in their own ways, clearly. But it's definitely apparent that they needed each other, to have that success. But they're struggling in different ways. Tom Brady personally, Belichick's just trying to look for his next, who's his next quarterback going to be, and because he wanted to keep Garoppolo, but Brady went in and went to Kraft and said, look, he's got to go. So that's the situation that he had, or maybe he thought this is the kind of drama I want to avoid. And so you want to move on before. Coaches, a lot of these guys want to move on. Like when a guy has a little bit of value left, like that's when you want to get rid of him, not to have him until you got to walk him out the door.
And there's two other veteran quarterbacks who struggle right now. Aaron Rodgers, he's struggling, but it's more because Aaron Rodgers is not playing like Brady. It's just his receiving crew. They just not really getting done. But the other quarterback who's playing like Brady, hell, maybe even worse, is Russell Wilson. I don't know what's going on in Denver. That team just looks terrible. But all three of those teams with their veteran quarterbacks, all three of those QBs, any given year are looked at as potential Super Bowl contenders, as long as they got a team around them.
Well, that's
now,
the thing.
All of them are struggling.
Yeah, Russell has the most exposure because we forget. I mean, go back almost 10 years ago, we forget about the Legion of Boom. how bad those guys were. I mean, when you had I think all 4 in that secondary made to the Pro Bowl or something like that. I mean, those guys were lethal back then. And again, it wasn't like he was the bona fide starter. They had a starter. The coach decided to make a decision to go to Russ, but Russ was protected. He had beast mode. You forget about beast mode, so he didn't have to be the guy who necessarily had to win the game for them. He had beast mode at his disposal. And again, he had an innovative head coach. Had it not been for that one play call in the Super Bowl, we'd be also doing Russell Wilson a lot differently as well. But but that team definitely, when you talk about teams that had untapped potential, they could have won easily 3 in a row. But I think they never recovered from that one decision at the end of the Super Bowl. But again, Russell was protected. But now, again, he's out on his own. He's not a system guy. You could almost say Brady was, to an extent, he was a system guy. A lot more talent than Russell Wilson, but we're starting to see the flaws in Russell Wilson's game. And again, I think what you're also seeing is you're not seeing Russ being as gamey as he was before. It was like his first instinct was to run. But they say, like with a football player, they say every football player, you have a certain amount of hits in you as a football player. And once you start getting near that number of hits, you don't take those chances anymore. I mean, the hardest thing about Russell was keeping him in the pocket. He would scramble. He played baseball. He had that classic baseball slide. He don't want to get out there and do that stuff anymore. He's trying to be in the pocket, but he was never a pocket passer. So I think all those protections have gotten removed, and this is what you're seeing in his case. In terms of in terms of Rodgers' case, I just think people just don't like him, man. I mean, honestly, you just had former wide receiver that he played with coming out criticized. Again, you look at every receiver he ever had, the only exception being Jordy Nelson, who would really vouch for him, like he was the guy. But I mean, Monte left. A lot of these guys who come out, they're just not feeling him. I mean, it's like he runs everybody under the bus except himself. He gets on that show with Pat Metheny, and he just goes I think he just said recently, it's like, oh well, when they want to win, then we'll start winning. I'm like, when they want to win, right? So what about you? You know what I mean? So I think with them, I think they're just tired of his stuff. And so I think that's what might be going on there. That's a different situation than Russell. Russell just maybe not have been very good, or he fit within a certain system, but now he's out and he doesn't fit the system anymore.
I think it's more and more.
I can't believe I'm hearing all this. First of all, how you gentlemen doing, man?
What's
going on, Pop?
Yeah, y'all making my ears bleed with all this nasty stuff. First of all, 3 seasons ago was Mr. Russell Wilson in the conversation for MVP. Yes or no?
Yeah, for sure.
So
3 seasons is a long time.
NFL years.
Yeah, I know.
3 years is 10 years in the NFL.
My point is, when Russell Wilson got his head straight, he's in the best 7 quarterbacks in the league. I don't want to hear it. All right. The thing what's going on with Russell Wilson is
best 7.
It's a new thing. If anything, I blame that coach got to go. That coach, his play calling is terrible, man. It's pretty trash. He got what's my man, the running back? They got a pretty good running back. He used to play for the Chargers. I forgot.
Melvin Gordon.
He's a look, bro. If homeboy's at least a top 7 quarterback, bro. I mean running back. Why don't you run that man 25 times a game, bro? You see what I'm saying? And then the play calling is terrible because the man only got the job for being Aaron Rodgers quarterback coach. He wasn't even the play caller. You see what I'm saying? So so I ain't ready to just give up on Russell Wilson, right? Because I know the man can ball. And pretty much this whole year is gonna take a whole year to pretty much learn that playbook. Now with Aaron Rodgers, come on, man, the man got nothing but rookie receivers, man. His best receiver is Sammy Watkins can never stay healthy. He's pretty good, but he can barely play. And then his second best receiver is Randall Cole. I think that man's like 95.
And he's hurt.
He like 95 years old. He can run past nobody. You see what I'm saying? So, and I don't care. I know about one thing about Aaron Rodgers. He's like a second half kind of guy. Watch the second half. You're gonna put up the numbers. He haven't been playing up to par.
Bro, what are you basing that on? Look at Aaron Rodgers' career. I mean, let's face it. I mean, overrated.
I don't
He's
think so.
overrated.
No.
He's been to He's been to one Super Bowl. How many NFC Championship games has he lost at home?
So now,
When he had Devontae last year, what did they do against San Francisco at home in the NFC Championship game? I mean, come on.
The kicker missed 2 field goals, 2 chick chaps.
Oh, it's the kicker. You shouldn't put it in the hands of your kicker.
Oh, okay.
If you that dude, if everyone, all these guys talking about Aaron Rodgers is a top 5 all-time QB and all this kind of stuff, if you that dude, if Tom Brady could win with these third-string wide receivers in New England, guys who didn't even play the position. I think one guy used to play quarterback in New Jersey. It wasn't Elman. It's another guy he had. But so he's playing with scrubs and winning Super Bowls. Can you at least get to another Super Bowl? When you're at home, you got the elements, you got everything in your favor, and you haven't done anything with it.
Lambeau Field.
Have Mr. Aaron Rodgers ever had a coach named Bill Belichick?
So now it's the coach now. So now it's the coach.
Mr. Paul Bennett, I want you to answer me this. Who is one of the greatest coaches to ever coach this game?
Oh, Bill Belichick, absolutely.
All right,
no doubt.
That's a great event, Joe. Okay, let me ask you this: if you swap Aaron Rodgers with Tom Brady, do what Bill Belichick wins the same amount of rings or even more?
Yes, I would. Well, actually, the same amount of rings.
Yes. Would that mean giving you a top 5 defense near every year? And they also do a lot of cheating over there. Let's not forget about that. Let's not forget about spy game. Let's not forget about deflate game.
A lot of cheating. I thought you said something else. I thought you said something else.
And Mr. Paul Bennett, hold on. I caught you in the lie. You said, like, yeah, don't put it in the hands of the kicker. Then Tom Ryan said Tom Brady, the man that won 3 Super Bowls because of Adam Vinatieri. And then he beat the goddamn Oakland Raiders when he kicked the ball, the ice. Remember that one? When the fumble wasn't a fumble?
The Tucker.
Who kicked the winning field goal?
Hey, he won some, but he won some on his own also. He's the guy. He's the same guy who brought him back from 28-3 against the Falcons. That guy. When has Rodgers done that? When has Rodgers done that? Being 28 down, 23, and brought somebody back. When has he done that?
That his defense always let him down.
Wait, Poppy. I'm gonna interject here because I'm gonna bring something up, and I hate I don't have the numbers in front of me. If you look at the other top-notch quarterbacks, Rodgers doesn't have a lot of comebacks. That is another chink in his armor. He doesn't.
So in other words, he's a front runner. He's a front runner.
You said it, not me.
Okay, now
the front runner.
Fellas. Do y'all remember that Super Bowl? It was the same year where the Seattle lost that Super Bowl against New England. All the Green Bay Packers, all they have to do is recover an inside kick. Is that Aaron Rodgers' fault? Yes or no?
No, I will tell you what's his fault. That's not his fault. But
okay.
I remember that game. I remember when Julius Peppers caught an interception and everybody told him to get down. What they did, and Aaron Rodgers has a lot of control over the offense, they got extremely conservative because they figured the game was won. Yeah, the defense can't give up the scores, but Aaron Rodgers, one of the greatest quarterbacks. What is Stephen A. Smith? A bad man. That Aaron Rodgers, discount double check.
Now, Dante, let me ask you this other question, boss. When it was the Green Bay Packers against the Arizona Cardinals, that game was like 51 to like 40, 45. Was that Aaron Rodgers' fault? Yes or no?
No, that wasn't his fault. That just happened.
All right, then my point is this man always lose some crazy ass games, bro.
What about the time when he was at home in the NFC Championship?
Let's go back last year.
The other quarterback threw 3 picks.
Hang on, just go back last year.
Last year, Mr. Paul Bennett, the goddamn kicker missed 2 field goals and an extra point. What he supposed to do with that, bro?
Poppy, what was the score of that game? How many points did Jimmy Garoppolo and them put up? It was like 14 to like 17. No,
it wasn't 17 points.
It was 10-7, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was super low.
You can't win that game? The bad man? Come
on, okay, bro.
Against a West Coast team in Lambeau Field.
What are you supposed to do?
Man, look.
Okay, this is my whole point, fellas. Listen, y'all say Aaron Rodgers is not a top 5 guy quarterback. Cool, no problem. Let's talk about the guys that got 2 rings. Do you think that?
No, I'm saying no. Hang on. I'm not saying he's not a top 5. I'm saying he's overrated. When you talk about the GOAT, when you talk about the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and people try to put him in that category, I'm saying you're overrated there. Yes, on any team, he could clearly be a top starter for a lot of teams who could probably still use him. All right, if he's motivated to play. But I'm talking about in the GOAT category, not necessarily the current 2022 NFL season.
Okay, I can agree with this because I believe the GOAT is Joe Montana. He's 40-0. So we never threw interception in the Super Bowl. So he's the GOAT. They say Michael Jordan is the GOAT, season 0. So we got to apply the same principles in football too. Joe Montana, Mr. Joey Montana, 40-0. No interception. Flawless. He's the GOAT.
That's another debate.
That's another.
I'm not putting Montana over Brady. I'm not putting Montana over
listen, and we have to do it and not despise niggas like Shawnee. I despise niggas like Dante because y'all understand this. Did they cheated over there? Yes or no?
Man,
Yeah,
that was one season that got blown out of proportion.
Well, hang on. We had Spygate. You had Deflategate. You had how many?
I thought the Deflategate was blown out of proportion.
Oh, hold on, listen.
But they caught him with another camera crew another time.
To me, the greatest baseball player ever is Barry Bonds. But guess what? He disqualified because he used steroid. You see what I'm saying? Now,
So did
let's
everybody
wrap it up
in
to
steroid.
football. If you cheated twice, you disqualified, man. If somebody write your rap lyrics, you disqualified to be the best rapper, man.
So hang on. So let me ask you, Poppy. So should the Houston Astros then be disqualified from World Series?
Oh no!
Say that one more time. I ain't hear you.
Should the Houston Astros then be?
Astros.
He took it there.
Yes, they should. They cheated. They were stealing signs left and right. Yeah, and I don't know one.
Johnny don't care.
That sign behind him, proud of that shit. I would cover that with the what other thing in Texas? The Rangers. You should put the Rangers back there.
Hey man, that's not.
It's a whole lot of stuff that get left out with the Astros stuff. But I'm gonna go back because it was several points. It was several points that you made. You know, with Russell Wilson and with Rodgers, because Mr. Bennett brought it up right now because it's his first season away from Seattle. Right now, if I have to say right now, Wilson is looking more like a system quarterback because before when he was Seattle, Russell Wilson was believed to be like a top 10, top 7 quarterback. Meaning this dude he has skill and all that. He can hang his own against any QB when you put him on the field. If you looking at a QB like that in one team, I don't know what the hell's going on. You just go immediately when you go to another team, you got dudes like Daniel Davis Mills of Houston, Texas is performing better than him. I mean, it don't make no sense for you just to drop off the map. Even when Manning went to Denver, he still had an excellent first year before falling off the second year. So if no one off season can just diminish you as far as it did with Russell Wilson. Now we don't know what the hell going on with him.
It's got to be.
I mean, he was still a great quarterback, but now you got a quarterback, I believe Davis Mills, hell, even Jimmy Garoppolo, both looking better than Russell Wilson right now. I don't know what's going on. And he has weapons, and he's still not going. I know he has a rookie head coach, but Wilson has enough experience where he'd be like, hey, man, go sit back, let me work. Go sit back and let me work, and then y'all play off of me. He has, as a matter of fact, Hackett, he probably wants something like that sometimes for Wilson just to step up like that. Wilson has to cachet in this league.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Right back.
Oh, you good? You good?
No problem. You're probably good. But like I said,
Wilson has
he's got some injuries. Yeah, but he's not the same player. I think he's had some injuries as of late. The last years he's been dealing with injuries, and I think it's getting to where he's just not as reckless as he used to be. Like he would be like on first down, he'd be take off to run 20 yards or whatever. Like you just couldn't stop him. It's like defenses just didn't know what to do with him because he was so fearless, and he was fearless. When he ran, he knew how to slide. He had the perfect slide. He knew all that. He doesn't think like that attack first mentality to open up the field so then other guys can can cook. So I think that again, once a player gets to that point, this is like his last contract. He's not the same player. NFL players, you get a certain amount of hits. Once you start getting there, you like I don't want to take that anymore.
Yeah, they
and I think that's how he is right now. He has to be on that level to be effective, and I don't think he's that same player anymore.
I think they kept saying let Russ cook. It looked like they done left him in the kitchen too long. He burned up all the steak and everything.
he burning it all up.
He burned it all up now.
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this. Man, it's serious. Man, look, I ain't gonna touch that. But I will say this: the one thing that I'm pissed off, and I feel like it's some sucker shit, and I don't even want to cuss like that. That's what I feel it is. All of these guys lining up against Russell Wilson. It's like, okay, I understand you have a problem with him, but you know who led to those problems? The things y'all talking about, like it was a halo of protection around him. He couldn't this, we couldn't that. You're upset at Pete Carroll. You're upset at John Schneider. They set the precedent for him to get treated like that. Yes, every quarterback is a bit of a company guy, and he's the closest guy to ownership in situations, and that's why I respect guys like Dak Prescott that catch themselves to not make them be around the ownership and the coaches too much to make a separation. They stick with the team to be one of the 53 because that's important leadership-wise. But all of this, Richard Sherman, Michael, everybody's coming out against him. But you know who stood up for him? And I appreciate him. Marshawn Lynch was like, man, I hope his mentals is right. I hope somebody needs to check on him. And I was like, nah, he's the voice of reason, being a stand-up guy. And I was just like, yeah, man, everybody's down on him. And I even heard Mighty Jones say, like, man, you never see a
that's really big of him to do. Because, again, he could have had a lot of resentment because, again, they made a decision to go with Russell in that last play of that Super Bowl, then hand it to beast mode. You know what I mean? So again, he could have held that over, but the fact that he's still coming to his fence, like you said, that's big of him. But he's always kept it 100.
He's always kept it 100. And it just hurts me because it's like, look, man, it hurts to see them all going at the guy and kicking him while he's down because he's not gonna, I don't think it's in Russell to stick it at them if he gets back up because I still think it could be an injury here, injury there, and maybe it's just in his head mentally. He can still bounce back, and they're going to give him every opportunity to because they got that extension. Now, if he is a situation where he's washed up and he's hurt, if you finessed him for that deal, then that's that nest egg. It is what it is. But I do think that they're going to put in question his Hall of Fame chances now. I think for sure they're going to, if this continues, because he did, the end of 2020 didn't end well for him. Like that playoff loss was bad, but 21, he was not playing well before he got hurt. He was not playing well before he got hurt. And so
that's kind of crazy. You think going into the season he was a Hall of Fame candidate?
I think he was.
Seattle years.
I think it's time in Seattle and how much they put on a Super Bowl, on being in the Super Bowl and being in those Super Bowl runs. And he led those teams to the playoffs, even sometimes winning a playoff game. And so with that, he was going to get consideration because if you look at it, there's a lot of people that are in the Hall off of winning. And the numbers are like someone that, no disrespect. I know you're a Steelers guy. Someone that I don't want to see in the Hall of Fame, Hines Ward. I don't think he was special like that. And I because when they mention you and one of the best things they say, oh, he's blocking. Whoa, that's a receiver. Whoa, we talk about dynamic down the play.
Now, I would agree with that. I don't look at Hines as a whole. I mean, you talk about the best. Was he ever in the top 5 wide receivers of all time, or while they played? No, I would definitely put Steve Smith up in there, but I would put Steve in before Hines up.
Yeah, and I don't even like Steve Smith. He annoys the crap out. He's one guy that annoys me because one thing that bothers me is his temperament and his attitude and his level of he doesn't like. I ain't saying you gotta kiss Michael Irvin's ass, but when he's on the set with him, I was like, bro, understand that you played in a passing era. Understand that this man was still putting up 1,500 yards with a guy that's the all-time leading rusher. Please show that man some respect. Don't get up here and be like, my stats is this when he can sit up there and show you those Super Bowl rings and how hey man, that guy was he's a playmaker.
Oh, Black Man, can you keep this PG here? We're talking about sports here. You talking about sitting.
Wow. Hey.
It ain't that kind of show, man.
Black Man tripping. Hey, I'm going to take a jab at him. You notice he ain't mentioned nothing about them Saints here lately.
You just queued him up. In 5.
As bad as we were talking about Brady and the Bucks, they still better than them Saints. They still actually have a chance to get into the playoffs as bad as they've been playing because of their division.
They leaving the door open for them.
As are my Steelers, believe it or not. We only one game out of first. So.
I need y'all. I need y'all this week. I need them Steelers.
Philly, oh yeah,
I need the Steelers.
I need it too. Believe me, and we go into a bye after this game also. So yeah, I mean, if we can get that off, I can breathe a little easier. But man,
but yeah,
what's good with you, Marcus?
Hey, how's everybody, man? I'm just hanging in
Oh,
there. I'm
good.
sick,
Hey,
so
bro. Yeah.
Got that
Hang in there,
bear
bro.
with me a little bit.
Oh, no
Um,
problem. You good?
yeah, man. This has been an interesting season because there's been a lot of ups and downs, and certain teams that we thought would do better are kind of struggling right now.
Yeah.
Obviously, the obvious ones that I knew were going to do good were the Chiefs and the Bills and the Eagles. When they left off last season, they left off making the playoffs, but they lost in the playoffs to Brady. However, overall, the end of the season, they were still doing good. So I didn't have high expectations, but I didn't have low expectations. I knew they were going to be probably more than likely going to win the division, if not the Cowboys. Um, so they're both doing their part. Um, and as far as the AFC North, because I know that's your division, Mr. Bennett, um, the Ravens have been a team that just their defense isn't cutting it for them. Their
No.
defense is not cutting it for them. Even though they're a high caliber, high powerful offense, they cannot stand with, no disrespect to the Bills or the Chiefs in the AFC. They cannot.
That's
And now
true.
they're going to come against with the NFC. That's another department. The NFC has their own issues they got to work with too. I know. Who's the top dog besides the Eagles in the NFC? Who's the number two?
It really that's the surprising thing. It's the Vikings,
I might have to say. I
the
may have
damn
to say. I'm
Giants,
going to say
and
the
the
Cowboys
Cowboys.
for their defense. I'm still not sold on the Vikings as of yet, as far as going forward. Because again, that quarterback Kirk Cousins, you know, you don't know what quarterback you're getting every week. But I think the Dallas defense is legitimate enough that they're going to stay in it. Unfortunately, Giants. I mean, it's a great story, man. Especially around this area, everybody's got their chest, and the Jets for that matter. They're both
Oh
doing well.
man.
So everybody's puffing
Yeah.
out their chest out in my area. I'm getting it from everybody. But yeah, I would have to say Dallas in terms of consistency, like what I expect to see from week to week. I got to say Dallas at this point. And Dak, he didn't look super, but he was competent. So I got to give it to Dallas at this point. I really do.
You know what, Mr. Bennett, when you brought up Kirk Cousins, I look at Kirk Cousins and all that stuff we was talking about Rodgers. He's a low budget Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is the legend. Aaron Rodgers is the one his grading scale is up there against the immortals because
Right.
of his talent level.
Right.
But we don't talk about as far as his accomplishment levels. When we talk about Rodgers, you possibly could be the most talented quarterback of all time. You up there with Marino, just your arm strength, your accuracy, all of that. But when we look at your resume, it's only for whatever reason, it's primarily in the regular season.
Yep.
And then when
Yeah.
you get into the postseason, it's sketchy. You got some good seasons, but you only got one ring, and because of who we grade you against, you don't mix up there. No
Plus, like I
different
said,
than
the
Kirk Cousins.
personality. Can he stop talking?
Yeah. Can you shut? But hold on.
Can you just stop talking? But he's got to be again. He's got the weekly show with Matheny. He's got always something to say. I mean,
Always
I don't
something.
hear as much out of Cousins, but you don't hear his teammates hating on him though. But
Yeah,
just
and Cousins just
last
do
week.
all of his work in the regular season, and
Yeah.
then people don't trust Cousins because they think he's a bad quarterback. Because if you compare Cousins' numbers to any other, he could compare. He
Yeah.
puts up numbers in the regular season, but in the bigger games in the postseason, he gonna disappear. And
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, dude, different. I mean, you
It's-
basically doing the same thing as what Aaron Rodgers is doing. Just Aaron
Right.
Rodgers, he gets a whole lot more attention. He's revered a whole lot more than you.
Right.
But I mean, y'all doing the same thing.
And he has a right at this point. He clearly has a better team. He's got a better
Yeah.
running back, and he's got some top wide receivers.
Leave Cap out of it, Black.
Hey, you gotta, man. You still bringing up the Cap, man. You know,
Cap
man.
gone. Cap might as well
Cap-
go sip on some bubbles
Yeah.
or something.
Cap
man.
got the
gone.
Netflix bag, man. He got the Netflix bag, and he got the other ventures. He's good. But Andre Terry, I want to pull this up, bro. I want to bring this up. So you said top dogs in the NFC. Can we be honest here? You can look at a team's record and you can say it's good. I get it. Eagles, they respect and they props. But on an eyeball test, I don't think that the Eagles are better than the Bills or the Chiefs. That's just my opinion from what I've seen. Definitely the Bills. The Bills, their defense is top notch. The Chiefs defense, it isn't top notch, but it's solid. It's solid enough. But that Bills defense, they should have gotten Christian McCaffrey just as icing on the cake. I wish they would have pulled that trade off for icing on the cake, but they didn't. Hopefully they pull off something else. But them getting Von Miller as a pass rusher,
Yeah.
and the way that offense scores points, he's basically always in pass rush mode. Because you could, and he's a pretty decent run stopper, but he's he's there to get after the quarterback. And then that opens it up for the other guys. So no, eye test wise, and I know somebody just did a power ranking. I would put, now it's not cap. The Buffalo is a damn good team. They definitely beat a quality Chiefs team. What's the best win the Eagles got? Because if you say that, you know who you got to give props to. So go ahead and answer that question for me. Who's the best win the Eagles got? And it's the Cowboys. That's the best. Yep. That's the best win they got. The best win the Chiefs got. I mean, the Bills got is in Arrowhead, if I'm not mistaken. The game was in. And
Arrowhead. They barely survived Oakland too.
You talking about Vegas? Yeah. You talking about the Chiefs?
Yeah, when the Chiefs played the Raiders, they barely survived because the Raiders had a 17-point lead.
Yeah, they did.
But in NFL, it's basically surviving the game. You got to win. It's not college. You can't blow out everybody like in college football. Them boys, you're going to win by field goals a lot of times.
I hear you about
Travis Kelce, boy, had 4 touchdowns that game.
Didn't cover him in the red zone. Tommy B went off last week about that.
But now you see the difference here. Again, we talk about pairings and who leaves, right? Now Tyreek Hill, when he's with the Chiefs, it wasn't fair. It was almost like you had the cheat codes to the video game. You know what I mean? Like he was the ultimate cheat code. Now he's with Miami, and surprisingly, I mean, we should have had 4 interceptions in that game, but you see how he's got shut down. So again, it's different when you think you're the man. You can go somewhere else and you can be just as productive. And we're seeing him being dropped off because clearly you would have thought he was arguably top 2 or 3 wide receivers in the game last year. He's not looking that way so far this year.
I'll say to his defense, he has had some 10-catch, 150-yard games. Tua has played better than I thought he was. But he's played better than I thought, and I know we got to wrap up. But so, Shawnee, I got to speak on this. I know I don't want to come in on a damper note about your team making it to the World Series, but I'll come in with the positive first. So everybody, I don't want to defend the Astros, bro. But I'm going to be a fair man. When you come to 1-1, we're fair. This ain't no Skip Bayless, Shannon shit. This ain't none of that. So I'll be honest. 2017. AL champs, that's who independent Astros. Then you got the Red Sox. Then you got the Astros. Then you got Tampa Bay. Then you got the Astros. Then you got the Astros. I mean, they finished up with the cheating thing, and that was 17. And they still been making it back. So you got to give them their credit. Props out to them. I mean, they're hard to catch up to. I mean, my Rangers just got Bruce Bochy as a manager, so that legitimizes us a little bit. But, I mean, they're hard to catch up to. If they get this second one, then it's really going to stamp them and solidify them. Because if they lose another one, then they're getting into the Braves of the 90s territory, where they just win their division, but they always in the World Series. But the thing that saddens me is that I was looking up, and they said that as of right now on the rosters, no U.S.-born black players are projected to be on the World Series roster, and it's the first time since 1950. And as excited as I am for the World Series and to see the great play, I want to see
the Astros would have had one. The Astros would have had with Brantley, but he's hurt.
And that's the first thing I thought about is he's hurt, and I was like, "Damn, I wish he was healthy."
And I remember, and when I put that on Facebook, and I remember all the comments that everybody kept bringing up, well, there is black folks. They talking about Afro Latinos. I'm like, of course, but
that's
the
why I say
article,
U.S. born.
Exactly, they strictly talking about U.S. born because, and they was talking about it because of the history of baseball in this country. You had the Negro Leagues. You had the mid-'90s where it was blacks playing, and when baseball was a top sport in the country. And, so that was the article about. But, yeah, it's just not – I think we talked about it here before, just how baseball in the inner
it's
city.
Expensive, yeah. I mean, I got one of my boys now. His boy's 8 years old. He's in travel ball right now. It's mad expensive right now. It's a class sport. It's like playing hockey. You know what I mean? In terms of expense.
And so failure, you got to get used to failure. You have to be used to failure, and it's just the path to success. And the money is too long compared to the 2 top sports in the community.
You can be a millionaire at 18, 19, 21 years old, but baseball, you could be languishing in the majors for a long time. So
and you don't know how long you'll be sitting there rotating in that whole minor league circuit before they finally give you a chance to get the majors. Right. And it's a good chance unless you're just a stud. Right. Which, okay, go ahead and play baseball if you know you're going to be in the majors. it's a good chance they may send you back in the minors because you may just come up to fill a need because somebody hurt.
Right.
So it just, it's the path to just that big money contract where everybody talk about the guaranteed dollars. It's long, man.
No, also right, and we have just too many options here, right? I mean, here you got so many sports to play. Like these Afro-Latino players, it's baseball or soccer or what they call football.
Exactly.
That's it.
Or maybe boxing.
Boxing,
And boxing,
yeah,
for sure.
But again, fewer options, and you're going to have that as a, you're going to have, have that as a pipeline. And to be honest, also, I think to an extent it's a preference thing because again, we've seen African American players, if they see something like all the stuff that happened over the past year, you ain't hear no Afro-Latinos players talking about George Floyd. You ain't talking about nothing because it's like.
But since you bring that up, Mr. Bennett, I can't expect them to. I can't expect.
Yeah.
Since you brought that up, I can't expect them to because they're not from this country. They got their own stuff going on now.
I disagree because Big Papi, aka David Ortiz,
on the Red Sox
doing all of that.
Yeah, but okay, Papi, but Ortiz been up here for a while. A lot of them boys just come fresh from home. So they got other, they just.
No, but you also
got to stay in line and be quiet.
Consideration that a lot of baseball players, they usually quiet people. You don't hear baseball player kind of like glorifying, or necessarily being on the headline. You see what I'm saying? So I actually know about Alex Rodriguez doing stuff for the community. I remember he tweeted because one of those tweets about when George Floyd happened. I know David Ortiz, he always very vocal.
But you naming players, you naming Latino players who have been up here in the country for a nice amount of time. A lot of them, they barely been up here for maybe a year or two just to play ball. So when stuff like civil act, right stuff or civil action, social justice stuff happens, they not really keen on what's going on. They barely can speak English.
Okay, but here's the thing though. Here's the thing. If you go, let's just say, for the sake of the argument, you start following the Astron Houston. It's like, I want to say in the roster, how many players it is? 27, right? 25, 27, something like that.
27.
Okay. So the 27, most likely Latinos, is going to be at the bare minimum 10 Latinos on that thing from different countries. Panama, Colombia, Puerto Rico, right?
Mm-hmm.
Out of the 10 guys, how would you feel if 7 of them send out tweets, hey man, justice for George Floyd? Would that do it for you?
Nah, that was just an example, but
it's not expected. My thing is, I know we got to wrap up here. It's not expected to, and my point is, it's been made this way for a reason. Gary Sheffield has said this before in the past. They know when it comes to money, the black player and the white player is going to want their money. And they know that when you come and get the guys from a poor situation, they're going to take lesser because that's a lot to them because they're not from American money standards. Now, when they get here on their second contract, it's like, whoa, I'm used to a certain, they want the up like everyone else. But coming, it's a different thing. It's an economics game. It's a total economic game, and it's a total thing of who you want it and how you want the game to be played. They don't want a bunch of Ricky Hendersons. Shout out to one of the GOATs. They don't want a bunch of guys like him bringing the pizzazz, but that's what baseball is lacking. But I know we had
this will be a good topic for next week, so we got
absolutely. All right,
okay.
Okay.
Shawnee, man, give us your prediction and take us home, man.
Oh yeah, Astros in 6. So I'm nervous about all the other NL East teams that we lost.
And I hope the Astros lose.
You get out of here.
Go Philly. Lose. Eagles lose. Phillies win. That's all I got to say.
We out
next week.
All right.
Peace, y'all.